All right. Hello, everybody. This is the Fire Social Worker Show. Welcome, welcome. Looks like Marthea, you're muted. Let me go ahead and go live here. Okay, there we go. I hear you now.
Mhm.
All right. Okay, so my name is Joey Laswell. I am the Fire Social Worker, and I'm a certified financial social worker, just passionate about talking finances and, passionate about social work. And, I'm just excited to kind of spread the gospel about personal finance. And so I have a special guest with me today. I have Miss Marthea Pitts. You might know her as the MSW Coach. Um, I mean, honestly, she's got so many irons in the fire. I actually, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go through some of the accolades that you've accomplished so far.
Oh,
I'll talk you up a little bit. Okay, sorry.
okay.
So this is actually from ChatGPT. People don't know that you can actually set ChatGPT as your default search engine now, which is kind of interesting. But anyway, so I actually just put you in ChatGPT, and it came up with Marthea Pitts is a distinguished workforce development center career counselor and macro focused social worker specializing in program design and policy. The lead founder and lead consultant of MSW Coach, a consulting company that collaborates with governmental agencies, community based organizations, and educational institutions to enhance career pathways for undersourced populations. And like, I'm going to post this in the show notes, but there's four more paragraphs. So a decade of career experience, assisted more than 150 social workers, a PhD candidate, at Florida A&M University, consulting work, like, you have your own podcast, you have a YouTube channel. Like, I mean, my question for you is just like, when do you sleep? Like, how do you function?
Actually, I think I was well prepared for this entrepreneurial journey because I didn't always have the most ideal jobs. I
Okay.
spent a lot more years being severely overworked
Mm-hmm.
than so I kind of been trained the hard way for it. So
Okay. Well, we're going to go into a little bit of your backstory, because this is, this is for social workers, but it's for everybody too. So there are some aspiring social workers that watch and listen. So just tell us a little bit about, what inspired you to get into social work, and a little bit about your backstory, but what got you to where you are.
yeah, most definitely. Hey, 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 my name is Marthea Pitts. I'm known on the social work streets as the MSW Coach. And my journey to social work was not one that I took willingly.
Okay.
I started off working in state government in call center positions, to be exact, in regulatory specialist roles. So I was the person that when you call a state agency to like find out maybe about your child support case or to submit a report to the abuse hotline or to find out about social workers getting reciprocity of licensure in the state of Florida, I was the person you talked to. And so what that looks like was every day, day in, day out, me talking to hundreds of people from all walks of life. But more than that, it also looked like me being heavily reliant on state laws, policies, and statutes and reading them in like large amounts to interpret how to assist the caller. And so the questions would be a range of things, but I had to use my resources, which were the laws, the regulatory laws, and policies to answer their questions. And so I believe that those early years working in call centers have been foundational in my career and where it is now, because in those roles, I learned to um, read, interpret, and apply very complex technical information and disseminate it to anybody. I always say I can talk to anybody and they
Mhm.
will understand a complex thing. And it honestly came from the years working on the front line. So I can talk to the blue collar worker and I can talk
Mhm.
to the senior executive leaders. And I've done that in all of my positions. And so my journey into social work, again, was not willing. like I didn't dream of being a social worker.
Yeah.
I actually had a good friend of mine at the time who was not a social worker. She had a psychology background. However, she worked in a lot of social service agencies. And for years, Joey, I mean years, she would tell me, Marthea, you would be a great social worker. You've been through a lot. Like, you could really help the people. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, no, I don't want to be a social worker, because my understanding of a social worker is very skewed at the time from
Mm-hmm.
working in social service agencies, again, at those state agencies, and working with social service workers. I always
Mm-hmm.
thought those were social workers. And then my only like connection point to that was in the child welfare system, which I worked at the abuse hotline, so I wasn't going to people's houses. But I
Gotcha.
would always say like, no, I don't want to take people's kids. I thought
Mm-hmm.
that's all social workers did.
Mm-hmm.
So after years, like years of her encouraging me to do the thing, I finally did it, and I made the decision to do it. During the year, I took a career sabbatical from my call center jobs because I was severely burnt out. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's only so much talking that an introvert can do before it negatively impacts you. So I had
There
to,
you go. Shout out to
yeah.
the introverts. It's a lot of work
It's
sometimes
a
just to
lot,
yeah.
yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know what was going on, and so I
Mm-hmm.
took a year-long career sabbatical, and during that time, I got very clear on that I was supposed to become a social worker. So,
Mm.
I enrolled in my Master's of Social Work degree program at the Florida A&M University. I went and taught. Well, before I enrolled, I went and taught to the department chairs, and learned about their program, and that it wasn't a clinical program; it was an administrative track program,
Okay.
meaning they prepare you to be like leaders of social service agencies, nonprofits, things like that, which was great for me because at that time, my career goal was to streamline the delivery of the social services, like in
Mm.
those organizations that I worked in, because I saw so many issues with how the service was being provided that I was like, I'm going to go and change the face of social service delivery. And so when I learned about the program, I was like, this is what I need. And so I
Mm.
enrolled, and my world was shifted. I experienced the hugest and the largest paradigm shift at that time for where I
Mm.
was in my life in that program. And what I learned about was that the things that I had been experiencing in my own personal life, as far as economic injustice. I lived in a city, Tallahassee, Florida, that was identified to be the most economically segregated city in the nation in 2017. And so all of this is like a combination of things. I didn't share with you all that, like, I was always a non-traditional student. I started out working on my AA degree, and it was in my Associate of Arts degree, and it was in a community college sociology class that I made the discovery that the things I was experiencing in my life was not a result of something being inherently wrong with me, but it was a
Mm-hmm.
result of me being impacted by these invisible systems. I
Mm-hmm.
always thought that my inability to get a good paying job was because I just couldn't get one. But what I didn't take into account was my inability to get a good paying job because I didn't have reliable transportation. I lived in a city that doesn't have mass transportation. I
Mm.
didn't have reliable child care.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of didn't haves. And so it was in that sociology class when the sociology adjunct professor was talking about these systems. I was like, oh my gosh, that is the story of my life. And
Mm.
so when I enrolled in the MSW degree program, and my professors were talking to us about the importance of being a watchdog and policy. Again, it wasn't a macro specific program, but
Mm-hmm.
because it's a program at a historically black college and university, they taught to us about the importance of addressing the root cause issues of the problems that we see in our potential clients. And so it was a combination of all of those things, in addition to me working in a workforce development center at the time as a
Mm.
workforce development career counselor, that it really put a battery on my back, in my back, to be more prevention focused rather than intervention. So I
Mm.
really say that I feel like I didn't because I didn't graduate until like, mm, 3 years into that job because I
Okay.
took a longer paced track because I
Mm-hmm.
could only do 2 classes at a time. But it wasn't until like I was in that role and in my MSW degree program did I really understand the magnitude of the profession that I had chosen, and that my role was going to be way bigger than just giving people some bus passes and some child care referrals, right?
I
So
feel
I'll
that.
stop.
I feel
Yes.
that.
So I'll stop there, but that's my journey into social work.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I didn't come here of free will at first, but yeah.
I'm actually kind of in a similar boat too. Of my experience with social work was similar. I had my bachelor's in psychology, and then a social worker. I was working at a state residential facility for acute psychiatrics, and the social worker took me under her wing, and she was like, you're going to be a social worker, like she just was like really adamant about that. So Mary Stacy, if you're out there, if you're listening, I know she's around. She's still grinding, but she actually ended up being my supervisor for my internship too.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, so just a great influence. So shout out to all the social workers that are turning other people into future social workers.
Yes, yeah.
um, but yeah, it's like once you're in, you're like everyone should be a
And
social worker. Everyone can be a social worker if you think about it. I
yeah,
mean, well, okay, maybe let me take that back a little bit.
title protection. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I think
But we
everyone
should
has
all
to.
be caring for other humans.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, thank you
Yeah.
very much so, very much so. But yeah, so that's a really man, like that's a lot to. It just sounds like you were built for macro social work from the very beginning almost, like, but you didn't even know that it was really a thing, did you? So it's really crazy
Mm-mm.
how that kind of transpired.
Yeah.
um so so I guess I'm sure some questions are going to come up of like, so how do I get in macro social work if you wanted to start from the ground floor? Let's say they're bachelors, they have a bachelor's degree and they want to get their master's in social work. What would you tell them to give them some advice on becoming a macro social worker?
Yeah. My biggest advice is to become a subject matter expert. So my name before like officially landing my first macro job was synonymous with the person who know how to get people jobs in the
Okay,
workforce development system. I won 2 statewide awards and 1 national award because I was doing
nice.
the impossible in my region. I didn't realize it was such a big deal, and I
Mm,
didn't understand at that time why like the CEO and the national directors and the regional leaders were making such a big deal about my job placements. It wasn't until years later when I left that position and I learned about my city being the most economically segregated city in the nation
mm,
did I understand the magnitude of what I was doing.
mm-hmm,
So with that time in that center made me a subject matter expert on connecting under resourced populations and communities with quality employment. And so what I say to social workers who are still in case management direct practice jobs is to find the thing that you're good at and build a brand around that, and you will
mm,
forever be paid. And it's hard for social workers to do that, especially when you're in case management roles, because you're required to be the Jack and Jill of everything under the sun. They want you to move the sofas and bait the turkeys and get the counseling and do the things, right? And so
yep,
for a lot of social workers, they cannot process the thought of focusing on one thing because they become so accustomed to being overworked. But my tip is find one thing, become really really good at that thing, and
mm,
make certain that everybody knows that that's your thing.
mm,
um,
mm,
and don't just pick a random thing off the list. Find the thing that makes you excited. Like me,
mm,
you could tell I'm getting excited when I talk
mm-hmm,
about. And Joey, I'm sure you've been on a live of mine. When
uh-huh,
I'm talking about jobs, I'll kick into a whole nother gear, right? Because I have a personal connection to years of not having good jobs. And
mm,
so I understand how one good job can change your life. That's why I'm so excited to talk to you about the fire movement.
mm-hmm,
So find something that you like, because a lot of social
yes,
workers have settled in their careers and
mm-hmm,
they're doing things that they don't like, that they
mm-hmm,
actually can't tolerate, only because someone told them you can make good money doing it. But
Mhm.
when I start talking to them about how much money they're making, and they're making good money, and their career satisfaction is in the dumps, their rates are
Mhm.
in the dumps.
Yeah.
So I would say find your one thing, make certain that it's something that you are super passionate about,
Mhm.
and that's how you create a career lane for yourself.
Yeah. I know I will say just from personal experience too, like when you get into social work, and I didn't know much about the field that much to begin with, but the field is so broad, like there's so many different directions you can go down, which is both a good and a bad thing depending on how you look at it. Like I'm kind of a paralysis analysis kind of person. Sometimes if I have too many choices, I don't know what to go down, what path to go down.
Mhm.
And then a lot of times I feel like sometimes people or new social workers, fresh grads, they take what they can get. And I was in that situation too. It's like I had bills to pay, I needed a job, and so I took basically the first place that would hire me.
Right.
Um, but that's I guess that's kind of part of the industry now. But hopefully, with your advocacy and just trying to push for, higher wages for social workers across the board, maybe we won't have to worry about this conversation. But it is definitely a concern for a lot of social workers. And I think you mentioned in some of your streams that they're even talking about this at the school level of like, you know don't expect to make a whole lot of money. Like they're
Mhm.
priming you for this, and that's just, I just feel like that's just wrong. And hopefully, like I said, we can change the narrative and change the numbers. I mean, let's be real, we got to change the numbers. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, so
And
any.
let me add something to that. That's a
Mhm,
great point that you just made, right? So I am a systems thinker. I had to acknowledge that. So one of the things that I always really push for people is, yes, we would like for the system to change. We would like for the narrative to change around social workers made little to no money, and that's just the way it's going to be. However, we got to create a workaround because that's not going to happen tomorrow. It might not even
mhm,
happen in the next decade or two. So, my workaround to students, especially, if I could like wave a magical wand,
mhm,
it would be that when you are in your education degree program, remember why you went to go get a degree. It was to go get a better job.
mhm,
Yes, for people who have like family support systems who are well off, they go to school just to learn how to critically think and learn all day.
mhm,
However, for many of us, we're going as a means of to an end to go and increase our salary earning potential. However, what I see a lot of people do is get wrapped up in the idea of being a traditional student where I just go to school and I just focus on my studies and that
mhm,
is just it. No, you should also be keeping in the forefront that the goal is to not just walk across the stage with your degree, it's also to walk across the stage with a job offer in your
mhm.
hand. And
There you
so, in
go.
order to do that, you have to be very strategic from even the first step of choosing a degree program about the steps that you're going to be taking to ensure that you get that so that it looks like what degree program, is this an in-demand degree program? Do they have job placement? Is it guaranteed job placement? What is their relationship with employers? Do they have a robust relationship with like a system of employers that have graduate pathways where I can go straight into a job? Um, the internships and practicum sites that you're choosing. A lot of students, and I've had the opportunity to talk to thousands at this point all around the world,
Mhm,
they go into like the practicum internship, which we know every social work student has to do that in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And they go into it with, I'm just checking the box. My
mhm,
word of advice for you is to not do that because your internship should be preparing you with the experience you need to get the type of job that you want. So if
mhm.
you let the people tell you we only have 5 sites and you have to pick from this list, you
Yeah.
already are going the wrong way. Turn
Mhm,
around, go back
mhm,
and start advocating for yourself and let the people know No, I want a practicum site that does blah, blah, blah. Even
Mm-hmm.
if that requires you to go and do the lead work, the return on investment for you, one, advocating for yourself and doing whatever it needs to take for you to get that experience on your resume is invaluable. I
Mm.
talk to a lot of social work students who graduate from their degree programs and don't have the and it's not even the relevant experience, but the requisite knowledge to
Mm.
get the jobs that they want,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so what that comes from is not having adequate experiential learning opportunities. That means you just took whatever they gave you.
Right.
And so you
Yep.
really set yourself up for failure or let them set you up for failure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so you have to really be your own advocate. So I love that you brought that up. My theme for students would be your first client.
Mm. Ooh,
Don't wait until you get in the field. Be
I
your
like
first
that.
client and
That's
advocate.
that's that's a good quote right there. Be your first client. I like that. You got to trademark that one.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, like I said, I started listening to podcasts about social work when I was in grad school, and I wish some of like I wish I'd stumbled upon that nugget of wisdom because I was the same way. I just went along with, well, like we only have so many places for practicums, and so I just did what I could, and I
Yeah.
took what I could get,
Mm,
But looking back on it, I could have advocated and really fought for okay, no, I want to do this in this field, and I'm willing to move mountains to get there because, like you
yeah.
said, it sets you up. Like it's like a domino effect of good
Mhm.
things. So that's
Mm,
some great advice. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
mhm.
Well, so you got a lot on your plate, and you went from like macro, and then now you're doing the entrepreneurial thing. Are you still doing macro work, or are you just purely entrepreneurial at this point? I'm just
I'm
curious.
full time in my business. I consider myself to be a social entrepreneur and that my work is still on the macro level.
Okay.
And but I'm also a current PhD candidate. So
Man.
right now I'm fully engrossed in the research proposal phase. Joey, listen, don't ask me a question about that PhD program.
You probably don't even want to think of those letters
And the
PhD
semester
anymore.
just started
Oh
yesterday.
man.
So listen, one person, somebody's podcast I went on, and she asked me all of the questions. It was a Friday. I was
Mm,
like, I don't want to think about that, but no. Yeah. So I'm a current full-time PhD candidate. So I'm focused on that right now. But
mm.
yeah, I have
So
a
what's your
career
goal
plan
with
in
that?
place. My goal is I have some long-term career goals. I won't
Mm,
get too far into it, but I will return to the workforce at some point. Yeah.
okay. All right.
hmm I still
But
have
in the
work.
meantime, you're also mentoring and coaching and doing all this. Like you're single-handedly helping the social work profession, like all these entrepreneurial social workers. Because, I mean, like let's be real, we got to pay the bills,
Yeah.
and we do have a good amount of skill sets, and that is marketable. So can you talk to any aspiring entrepreneurial social workers and maybe give them some advice, on how to get started?
Yeah, I actually just started another coaching program. So I have two tracks to my business. I have a track for social workers who want to stay in a 9 to 5 job. I have the micro to macro career accelerator program, and
Hmm.
that's the program where I teach them in 3 months or less how to identify, apply, and interview for their dream macro social work job. But then on the other track, I have those who want to become mission driven entrepreneurs,
Okay.
and so that program is called Passion to Profit. And it's currently a 6 week program. And it's where I take them through the process of learning how to ideate a business, like how to come up with a business idea based solely on their intellectual property, the stuff they have up here.
Hmm.
Because when I started my business journey, the problem that I kept coming against was that I came into a lot of contact with a lot of what I like to call universal entrepreneurs, people who were not mission driven, who I like, and Joey knows I like to talk real regular, like people
Hmm.
who will sell their soul for $1. And I was like,
Hmm.
that ain't, all money ain't good money.
Hmm.
I don't want to sell my cat for $1. Like, I don't want to sell my dog for $1. I don't know. I need to have meaningful, like a meaning, a why behind what I'm doing.
Mm.
And so I came up against a lot of walls. I spent a lot of money on business coaching. And what I realized was there was a very distinct difference between a mission driven entrepreneur and a universal entrepreneur. So what I've done is, because over the years I've been asked occasionally by social workers to like tell them how to start a business. And my
Mhm.
response will always be like, I'm trying to figure it out myself. I don't the only thing I can tell you is vet your business coach,
Mm.
right? Because I've invested a lot of money in business coaching. That was the benefit of having a good job, a good macro job.
Mm.
My employer was the silent investor in my business. So that was the only thing I was willing to like tell people, is I was still trying to figure it out on my own. However, I'm at the point now where I've figured it out.
Mm.
And it works for me as a mission driven entrepreneur, and it aligns with my owner's intent. Like, I work really hard not to be a type A personality
Mm.
person, which I
Mhm.
had to be in call centers. You had to be
Mhm.
perfect all the
Mhm.
time, or you would be called out about your errors in public forums.
Mhm.
So I worked really hard to shift from the orange on the colors personality assessment. I'm now a blue, and I don't
Okay.
ever want to go back to that. So I say that because my business aligns with that. Like, I'm very big on moving in aligned flow.
Mm.
I don't do work that I don't want to do. I don't work with people that I don't want to work with. I only do
Mm.
things that feel good to my soul. So I started Passion to Profit to teach other social workers how to create aligned businesses as well.
Mm.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
That's definitely something that I want to explore too. Because I think I commented on one of your Instagram videos of like, you said something about your dream macro job, and I was like, well, what if my dream macro job doesn't exist? Because
Hmm.
I want to be a macro financial social worker, and I
Yeah.
want to change the like like my big vision is to change financial literacy for the good, and make it accessible and all that other stuff. But like, as far as I know, I mean, I'm sure there are policy level jobs that deal with financial literacy, and I've done a little bit of research into that. But yeah, like, so what would you say to somebody who's like maybe has this lofty vision, and then they like they don't know where to even start?
Yeah, I would first say that there's no one better than you, right? So that's why I was like, it's time to start this, which it was always a part of my plan to eventually teach social workers how to be consultants.
Mm,
However, what I've found over my last 5 years in my entrepreneurial journey is that my impact is greater outside of the system. It's not to
mm,
say that I won't ever, which I do consult with organizations, but I find that I am most impactful outside of the system,
mm,
working with the future generation of leaders on my coaching, my career coaching business. So what I would say to you or someone like that is, you most definitely need clarity around what it is, how you want what you want your owner's intent of your business to be, right? So what happens is sometimes people just make the goal revenue, when
mm,
in reality that's not the real reason why they started their business. Some people may start their business to have time freedom. Others
mhm,
may start it to have autonomy. Others may start to create bigger impact. So with all of that, I just say get clear on what your owner's intent is for your business, and then design a business based off of that. And
mm,
be very careful. And this is what I teach my coaching clients in the first cycle of passion, the first cohort of Passion of Profit. Be very careful about the voices that you listen to,
mm,
because the most dominant voices in like the business space online are universal entrepreneurs, and they will lead you off a cliff.
mhm,
And they will have you trying everything under the sun,
mm,
and it's not going to work for you because you're different. So
mm,
you first want to have clarity around your owner's intent, why you want your business, how you want your business to feel, who you want your business to serve, and then also like, who is your ideal client?
mm. Yeah.
Who do you want to work with? So what I've seen over the years, when social workers would jump in my inbox and ask me like about helping them start a business, one of the biggest issues that I saw repeatedly was that they were approaching their business development the way they have to show up in their social work career.
Mm,
So in your micro social work career, you have to work with the most under-resourced populations and communities. However, when you are in a business, that does not translate to dollars because
mm,
those people won't be able to pay your fees, right? So you have to get very creative and clear around who will pay your fee and understand that you are running a for profit business and not a
mm,
non-profit.
mm,
That's
mhm,
another thing where I see social workers struggle. They run their business like a nonprofit. Um, and a lot of them also, like you mentioned earlier, there are tons of social work entrepreneurs online. However, they run their business like it's just a hobby.
mm,
When my belief is if you're pouring your sweat equity, your intellectual property, the things that you became very knowledgeable about over the years, you
mm,
should be adequately compensated for that, right?
mm,
So I
mm,
see a lot of social workers approaching their business like they do their social work career, and it's sometimes hard for them to put their business hat on.
mm.
And again, talking about how the dots connect, my undergrad degree is in business and
Oh,
marketing. I wanted to work in corporate. I used to do hair back in the day, and I was like, I want to do marketing for a hair care company. But I
nice.
understand now, like, that was a dot that was preparing me for where I am now.
Mm,
So a lot of social workers struggle with putting the business hat on. So with
mm,
my current coaching clients in Passionate Profit is really helping them think from a business mindset.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I hope I answered your question.
Absolutely, and actually, it makes me think. Like I've talked about this with other social workers too. Is that you know we a lot of us entrepreneurial social workers are driven by the lower pay and like you said, all those factors. But then in social work school, like they don't teach us business stuff,
Yeah.
and this is common in the mental health world too. Like therapists don't really know how to run a business necessarily. So
Hmm.
um, so yeah, I definitely feel that, and I'm kind of I feel not attacked, but I do feel like you were talking about me and a lot of that that what you were saying, but in a good way, because it's like I've learned some of those things too. I've learned
Hmm.
some lessons the hard way. I've consulted with some business coaches that didn't have my best interests at heart,
Yeah.
and so yeah. So I guess I would just say, or maybe we could talk about for those entrepreneurial social workers, yeah, like you said, to kind of drill down on your vision, but then you're also going to have to potentially, um, strengthen a muscle that you don't even have, or build a
Yeah.
muscle.
Yeah.
So business mind is I don't have a business mind, or like when you said put on your business hat, I'm like, well, I don't. There's a hat. I didn't know there was a hat involved. So, but yeah, so like I'm learning that stuff, like kind of like painfully sometimes, but like I'm just grateful that there are people like you out there that are actually giving back and like sharing your knowledge, because you have a very unique background and
Mm,
experience set. So yeah, I just hope that somehow people will find their way to you much sooner in their careers, than like because I've been a social worker for a little over a year, and I'm already looking like many steps ahead. But I think that there's probably a lot of social workers out there and aspiring social workers who maybe feel overwhelmed, and they don't, they're just like going back to that analysis paralysis, like there's too many trajectories that you can go on. um, but yeah, I mean, I think you've given some really just great nuggets so far, and I just appreciate, like, I should have had you on like since day one, on the show, but probably gonna have to have you on multiple times if well, whenever your schedule is open, because I know that's going to be a crazy thing to try to navigate. But yeah, so okay, so we were talking about a little bit about the fire movement, and obviously as the fire social worker, I'm big on personal finance. I'm big on the fire movement, and part of my whole, you know, mission statement or mission is to try to help people with their finances, but then also document like, okay, I'm on my own mid journey of fire, and what does that look like, and um, But like what as far as your like, do you have any good financial advice, for social workers that you would like to impart, maybe, and we can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, my piece of advice is get you one good paying job and it will change your life.
Mm,
And because what I see is a lot of social workers go about their job search by looking at the what are the credentials required for the
mm-hmm,
job and not taking into account like what do they need for the totality of their life,
mm,
right? So I talk about that in the context of looking at every area of your life, but specifically financial, right? And so how you do that is by not just looking at the salary but looking at the compensation packages. Are
mm,
they robust enough to support like what how you want to live, how you need to live? What does the 401k match look like? Is there an investment option where they'll give you a piece of the company? For the therapy clinicians, I'm not clinical, Joey. So so I sometimes use the words wrong, but
mm,
I know they love to work with mental health tech startups. You need to be looking at, are they going to give you a piece of that company?
mm-hmm,
Um, you need to be looking at like what are the healthcare benefits. These are the things that I teach my coaching clients before they even hit apply. We don't do it once the job offer is made and you're on the job and then you find out this health insurance is trash. We
mm-hmm,
all, as some caseworkers, have worked at a nonprofit where the health insurance was complete trash.
mm-hmm.
I worked at one.
Yeah.
So these are things that you are supposed to be looking at before you even hit apply. And I teach my coaching clients that because it impacts your life. And then even outside of the compensation package, what are like the time off
Mm,
benefits like PTO
yes.
leave policy, things like that, sick leave policy. You also want to look at the things that are not tangible to physical dollars.
Mm,
What does the work from home policy look like? Well, do they give you tuition reimbursement? Will
mm,
they cover your tuition costs? Do they have tuition waivers? Like all of those years that I stayed in state government, that was a strategic move. It wasn't just because I love it
mm-hmm.
here. It was because they were paying for my schooling. A lot of
There
it
you
I had to pay out of pocket because I flunked
mm,
out miserably when I first went out of high school.
mm,
But a lot of it was waived by my states, and it was strategic. Like I learned that the state will pay for you to go back to school. I'm going over there. Say less.
mm,
What I need to do,
mhm,
right? So things like that. So I would say that get you one good job and don't
mm,
be short sighted. That's why I say you have to look at more than just the salary.
mm,
I did a podcast recording yesterday or the day before with one of my micro to macro career accelerator alum. That's my career coaching program. And his name is Alec. And he was talking about how he's thriving in his life. And this is the most money he's ever made and how he's able to pay all of his monthly bills out of one paycheck. I said, doesn't that feel good? I
mm,
remember when that first happened to me with my first macro job. I was like, what is going on here? And you still have money left over. You have
uh-huh,
money to save. You have money to
mm,
invest, right? One good paying job
mm,
will change your life.
mm,
And so that's what I encourage for people on their financial journey. Instead of looking at 50 million different side hustles, which social workers like to do,
mhm,
find you one good quality job.
mm. And
One.
put your efforts, your soul into that job, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think we do get distracted. Shiny object syndrome. This new thing is popping off. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely feel that. And that's some great advice too. Um, oh, another thing that you made I thought of while you were talking was supervision for social workers that are trying to get their LCSW. Some companies will pay or at
Oh,
least reimburse you, and I'm actually working on that right now with my company. Is that they're gonna, some places have in-house supervision, which will go towards your clinical hours, and it's all already in-house, so that's easy. But then some companies will pay or reimburse you for supervision hours towards your LCSW. So
yeah.
yeah, just little things like that. Like I would have never thought to ask that, but I've started asking that in my interviews. I'm like, like what are some of these other fringe benefits or intangibles, like you're saying?
Mhm.
Um, So yeah, it's definitely, you want to go in there fully informed to your interviews, like knowing the market, knowing how much you're worth. Um, but speaking of knowing how much you're worth, do you got any tips for this, social workers in in the negotiation space? Because I'm a little I'm not the greatest negotiator, but I'm getting better. So what are
Yeah.
some good tips for
And
for
that's what popped up in my mind when you were talking about that. Most definitely negotiate everything. Negotiate. I know a lot of social workers like to tell y'all to network for jobs. I don't teach networking, but what I do say is negotiate, negotiate.
Mm,
Um, and so I give a resource to my coaching clients of the AAUW, which is an organization that teaches you. They have a self-paced course that teaches you how to do salary negotiations. And it's
okay.
worked for my coaching clients. I have coaching clients that have negotiated their salaries um, over like $30,000 more than what was initially being offered. So
Mm,
it works and it's free, but most definitely negotiate everything. If they're unwilling, which for macro employers, because that's what I specialize in, they're always open to negotiate because their budgets are much bigger than
mm,
micro employers. But if you're interviewing for a micro job and they're like, we don't have any money, then find something else to negotiate. Maybe you can negotiate a flexible schedule.
mm,
There was a point where when I moved from the state government to my workforce development job that wasn't in the state government system anymore.
mm-hmm,
One of the things that I was able to negotiate once I was in the position was a flexible schedule. So what
mm,
that looks like was me taking a 30-minute lunch as opposed to an hour lunch, so I could leave work at 4:30 to be on campus in my class at 5 p.m.,
wow.
right? Instead of getting off at 5 p.m. and then getting there at 5:30 because my
Mm,
professors did not tolerate being late. And so
mm,
that is something that I negotiated. And it, again, it wasn't tangible dollars, but it's resulted in more dollars for me in my lifetime earning potential because it allowed me to go get my degree, and I made a lot of money off of that degree.
mhm,
So you have to not, you can't just be short sighted. And I say that because I've been there before where you're just trying to pay the bills. But one thing I've learned about social workers, though, is that you all are very ambitious. You're high achievers, the ones that, connect with me. If you've listened this long to this episode, that
mhm,
means you connect to something that we're talking about. One thing
mhm,
I know about you are a high achiever. So with that, you have lots of goals for yourself. So again, if you can't negotiate the pay, negotiate something else. Joey just gave a good example of supervision hours. Maybe like for me, when it was my own, I've only had two case management jobs. So my second case management job was at a DV shelter where I was a transitional housing program coordinator, and I managed three scattered site housing sites. And so I specifically took that job because it gave me the flexibility to create my own schedule. All
mhm,
right. And so why that was important to me is because my daughter at the time was getting ready to enter 11th grade, and she had
mhm.
already created the education plan of doing dual enrollment in 11th grade. We do
Wow.
annual like family planning. She told me that ninth grade. In 11th grade, I'm going to be doing dual
Mm,
enrollment to become a certified pastry chef. So I had it
wow.
on my career plan before the end of 10th grade that I will get another job where I have flexibility to leave and come as I want, because I would have to pick her up in the middle of the day from
Mm,
high school and take her over to the college campus and then pick her up before the end of my work shift and take her back home. And that was important to me as a single parent. So again, negotiation isn't always dollars, and the value of that alone,
mm,
if I had to put a dollar amount to it, it's out
mhm.
of this world, because now my daughter is a pastry chef. She's had multiple jobs as a
Nice.
pastry. She went to college to, get a business degree around it. So it was invaluable.
Mm,
So if they can't negotiate with you in dollars, there's something else that you need flexibility on. And don't be afraid to ask for it.
mm.
Especially because, again, the people that engage with me, you all are superstars, right? And it's time to leverage that superstar stuff, that star power that you're giving off at your jobs.
Well, I mean, I will say from all the social workers that I've come across, It takes a special kind of person to basically step up and want to do something like this, because it's not always, it's kind of a thankless job sometimes, but it's also very fulfilling and rewarding. And then especially for a lot of people, knowing that you're not going to get paid that much money, respective to other jobs with a master's degree. So it does take a certain kind of person, and I've just been a big advocate since the beginning of, companies need to start stepping up and paying social workers their fair share. We're highly educated, we're diverse, talented, and driven, and just big hearted people usually. Um, so yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've got like a whole dynasty going on in your household. Like your daughter's like thinking like 4 years ahead of time. Like that's impressive. So better watch out, because the Pitts family is going to be knocking on doors here soon. Man, that's crazy. That's impressive.
Yeah, I'm a huge advocate for career plans. You need a
Yeah.
plan,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's a baby plan. You need a
Mm-hmm.
plan.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Hmm.
think a lot of social workers go into, and I remember them asking me like, so what? It's almost like they were priming me at the very first day of school, of grad school. It's like, all right, what do you want to specialize in? And at that point, I was like, I don't know, I don't know yet. But I think they were trying to get us to think about, okay, yeah, you're going to need to kind of specialize a little bit, like you're saying, and become a subject matter expert. And I think a lot of social workers, and maybe just young people in general, they don't really know what they want to do just yet, or but yeah, so it's just really cool to see, like, your skill set in action, not just for yourself and your clients, but even your daughter. Like, I mean, I'm just blown away. I can't have no words. But I'm just a big, I guess, a fanboy at this point. And just respect the game. But so I guess one thing I did want to ask about is a little bit, I don't know, a little meta, but like the future of social work. So let's say somebody's jumping into social work, or they're thinking about social work. Do you see anything happening like with the world of like AI and things like that? Like, do you think that young social workers need to be like well versed in AI, or what do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't believe in coincidences, but the same interview that I talked about doing with one of my alum of my program, Alec, the job that he landed was as a learning specialist for data governance. And
Mm,
so, and what I was talking to him about, which he already knew that from working with me, um, data sharing is a hot button issue
mm,
for employers, national macro organizations, right?
mm,
Um, because everyone's interested in helping to or trying to figure out how to solve these bigger issues, the systems level issues.
mm.
However, they are extremely concerned with how people's information is going to be protected and used.
Yeah.
So most definitely, social workers that's interested in like data governance, and even the integration of AI to help streamline services in organizations and businesses is going to be on the rise.
Mm,
I love a good case study. And there's this case study that I use with my coaching clients of a social worker who works with IBM, and what she does with IBM is, and this is, she's been with them for years at this point. She serves as the subject matter expert, and helps them develop, design, and sell software and packages to child welfare organizations around the country on
wow.
how to streamline their case management, like service delivery, notes taking, things like that, right?
Mm,
And so that was my first touch of like technology and the integration of a social worker. And what I anticipate is that the need for that will be great. What I would love is to see, yes, we need clinicians and clinician type roles, but
mm-hmm.
I would love to see more of our clinical therapist, looking at the administrative side of work in STEM in tech organizations,
Mm,
right? That's another big struggle that I see with social workers. They only see themselves as practitioners. However, we can be on the other side of the house. And ironically enough, because I specialize in STEM careers for youth and young adults, that's my workforce development hat,
mm-hmm,
my macro hat. There are way more admin jobs in tech organizations and STEM organizations than there are technician jobs. So
mm,
they need people in those support roles, and it's hard for them to fill because no one knows that they're available. They only think about the technician. So I just see that in being a huge lane that social workers can fill, especially because a lot of organizations really are becoming more mission driven in
mm,
their creation of widgets and products and
mm,
services. Yeah, a large part of that is part of their corporate social responsibility guidelines, but also
mm,
a lot of them are just concerned about it.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, I see it being a huge opportunity with the incoming administration. I see it becoming even more of a huge opportunity.
Okay.
And so, like, the lane is open. And my biggest challenge for social workers this year is to stop sitting back and letting the loudest people in the room lead all of the conversations.
Mm,
And when I say the room, I'm not just talking about in your 8 to 5, I'm talking about out in the world on
mm,
social media,
mm,
because people are being led astray by a lot of misinformation. And it's
mm-hmm,
really time for the people who are passion filled, mission driven, who have some, like, whatever the relevant experience, even if it's personal relevant experience, to really be the loudest ones in the room, because people are hurting and they're looking for
mm,
resolutions. They're looking for solutions. And I know that a lot of us are like focused on just a 9 to 5, or maybe we're struggling with our introversion,
mm,
but it's time for you to open your mouth. The people need you. So I've really been challenging my coaching clients to do more of that publicly
mm,
outside of their 9 to 5. So yeah, that's my challenge.
mm.
So whatever your thing is, so Joey, with you in the fire movement, you should be everywhere talking about that. And again, I know you talk to veterans and social workers. I love it. Who? What other organizations can we get you in? What other spaces are you
Mm.
on? Talking to the people that, those are just me thinking out loud. I'm sure you
Right.
are.
Well, it's funny that you say that because, I do have a little bit of an initiative that I'm working on, called Wealth Quest, and I don't know if it's an available name. I think it is, but it's basically going to be a financial literacy video game. There's a nonprofit called Vets Who Code, and I'm going to work with them to try to learn how to code and build this from scratch if I can, and be a part of that. Like you were saying, be a part of the solution. Um,
Oh,
and really it's just a passion for me, and I've been a gamer for forever and just love it.
oh,
So it's kind of a merging of passions like gaming and then financial literacy, and it's where a lot of like also video game therapy is something that I've been researching
oh,
lately. So just trying to, I'm a very tech nerd type of person, so
oh,
that's when you said IBM, I was like, whoa. I need to update my resume because apparently if there's social workers at IBM, then that's where I need to
yeah,
be. But
yeah, yeah. And
awesome.
in the, like, media arts, I call everything arts, but like media arts industries, they have huge, they don't, of course these are not jobs that just say for social workers, they're
Right.
for anyone.
Hmm.
However, they are aligned with what social workers like to do. So a part of what the work that I do, which I really like love to do, is clarity work with people, helping them getting clear about what they want to do in their career and what they want to do in their business, but specifically doing it by looking out there at their outside passions and how to infuse that. So to
Hmm.
hear you talk about, like, in my free time, I'm a gamer. Oh, that makes sense why you want to create that, right?
Hmm.
But then also we can take it even further to, like, this is on the 9 to 5 type side of the house. Like, teach you how to what employers would hire you to do
Mm,
something like that in house for them. And then even on the business side, organizations that you can come in and consult on the thing. And you
mm,
talked about the analysis paralysis. Like, I love that. The biggest issue that I see with social workers is like hesitancy to take action.
mm-hmm.
And I used to be guilty of this in in the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey,
Mm,
feeling like everything has to be perfect. And God, it has
yes.
to be lined up, and it has. I actually had a 45-minute call with a friend earlier today, and it's some stuff I've been telling him for the last 2 months, and it's just like, just do it. Why
Yeah.
are we still talking? He's
Mm,
like, but it has to be like this, and it. You
mm-hmm.
are missing time and opportunity. So I
Mm,
say that to say, take action, even when it's imperfect,
mm,
right? On my social media page, my stuff is not grade A, like compared to other people's
mm,
content, but I'm taking action. I'm
mm-hmm.
impacting people. I'm getting people to sign up for my services. I'm educating. So
Mm-hmm.
I would leave that for whoever is listening, also for you. I love that. But
Mm,
what can we be doing today? Like,
mm.
what can we do right now with what you have in your hands? Because
Yes.
again, the people need it. And I love
Yeah.
that. The game idea, oh, that's a great idea.
Well, I had some good advice I got early on was start messy, and then things, as you get more reps in, as you get better, you'll start to get better equipment, or you'll do this
Yeah.
differently. And I mean, yeah, I'm still plenty messy, but I definitely look back on my earlier stuff and I'm like, oh, that was rough. But
Oh, yeah.
you gotta start somewhere, and then it also gives you, like, when you do look back on, you're like, wow, I've actually made some improvements. I've grown a little bit. I've gotten a little bit better, and things like that. So, yeah. So any aspiring entrepreneurial social workers, or just anybody, I guess at that point, yeah, like you're saying, don't wait till it's perfect. Just go out there and do it, and then iterate, improve,
Yes.
and just get yourself out there, because yeah, you're wasting time. That's a great point. You're wasting time at this point. Uh, so wow, so yeah, we covered, man, we've covered a whole spectrum of things. I love this conversation. Um, and I'll probably think of 100 different things to ask you after we get off the stream. But so let's just recap a little bit about, okay, so you have a lot on your plate, and you're a busy person, but where could we direct people to get to you if they want to, like, get you and get your time? Where can they go to get you?
Yeah, so right here in the little blue bubble where my name is, my website is the first place to go to. It's called macroandpaid.com because we get paid as macro social workers. I don't know that whole whatever the saying is, impact over income. I don't even know it because that
Yeah, I
doesn't
know what you're saying. Yeah, we're not in
we
it.
no,
Come, we're in it for the
that doesn't
impact.
apply
Yeah.
to us. So we're macro and paid. So the first place that you should go to is there. I have a free e-course. It's the second link on my website, and it's a labor of love. It's my free gift to you. It's where I break down everything there is to know about macro social work, what it is, what it entails, jobs, how titles, because I know y'all love those, salary ranges. I give you some examples of employers, scope of work. I even give you homework because I wouldn't be the MSW coach if I didn't give you homework.
Mhm.
So I give you a lot of resources, a lot of information to really immerse yourself to learn about this other elusive side of the social work a profession, because I've demystified it. Every
Mhm.
myth, every lie, that's what I like to call it. Every lie you've ever heard about macro level work, it's not true. And I've demystified it. I've helped well over 180 social workers land macro jobs where they have scaled their salaries and their impact, and they're thriving,
Mm.
not just in their job, but outside of work. We have had quite a few career accelerator babies, marriages, new home, becoming first time home buyers. My
Nice.
coaching clients travel internationally and domestically regularly. Today I was on Instagram and saw one of my coaching clients who landed a macro job. She does sports social work, but she landed a job in the macro space around NCAA compliance because that's what she's passionate about. And she was in Africa glowing and
Mhm.
posting pictures. Another one of my coaching clients was in Greece the other day. So we really are thriving, and that's what I'm on a mission to do, is to help more change makers get into jobs where they can get as proximate to power as possible to create the small changes that are needed to really support the populations and issues that they're most passionate about. So if you're
Mm.
interested, at least start with the free e-course. That's a great place to start to arm yourself with some requisite information. And then in that, I give you links out to my podcast. I do have a podcast as well, but the e-course is the place to start.
Okay. Well, I mean, it sounds like you've got this amazing ripple effect that's happened with all your clients, and who knows, like all the things that they're about, all the great things that they're going to do or are doing,
Yeah.
have done. Oh man, I'm just that's macro social work right there. I love that, and that really that lights a fire in me. You know, like I'm just like, man, I got to do more. You know, like I'm no, you got me fired up. So I appreciate that so much, and yeah, if anyone is interested in working with Marthea, I mean, just I can't say enough great things about her. So, if you're listening, check out macroandpaid.com. Check out her YouTube, and I mean, she's all over the place. So you can't avoid her at this point. She's everywhere, which is awesome. Um, so all right, well, I mean, I guess, man, I don't even know where else to go from here, but I guess any last parting words for the audience,
Yeah,
and yeah, we'll just kind of end it from there, I guess.
most definitely. I would highly encourage you to be a part of whatever Joy is offering, because what, and I was telling someone this the other day, what was pivotal for me was seeing my numbers on paper,
Mm,
like how much I needed to at least pay, because my relationship with money ain't always been good because I didn't make money. So I
right.
used to have dread going into my bank account because I knew I
Mm,
had bounce checks in there and all of the different types of things, and severely overdrafted. I had years and years of doing payday loans and just a
mm,
bad relationship with my money. And I actually hired a budget coach. And because I didn't even like to, and it brought up a lot of stuff for me. Like I've
mhm,
had a lot of, also on your entrepreneurial journey, you gotta get a lot of counseling because it brings up stuff. But
mhm,
it would like give me anxiety, and like we would be on the calls and she would be doing the spreadsheet for me. And she was like, "Are you ready to do it yourself?" No, no, I don't know. I don't want to look at it. And so, but it was one day we were meeting. I'll never forget. It was 2 years ago at this point, and she had calculated my monthly expenses for that month. We had went through when the bills were going to be drafted and all of the things. And so then, and she started, I told her, I was like, I really, one of my business coaches said I really need to project to figure out how much I need to bring in my business to like fund my business and my
mm,
personal life where I
mhm,
can at least be comfortable. And I was like, can
mhm,
you help me do that? And she was like, yeah, I can help you do it. And she's like a ex banking person. She's
mhm,
spent years in banking, so she loves to whip up a good Excel spreadsheet.
mhm,
And so she put it all together, and she was like, "This is how much you need." And when I saw it, I was like, "That's all I need."
mm,
In my mind, I thought it was like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, maybe a good like high five-figure number.
mhm,
And when I saw the number, I was like, "Oh, I could do that."
mhm.
And ever since then, I've been hitting it and exceeding it. And it was something in the power of seeing the number on the
Yes,
paper.
absolutely. Mhm,
And it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go create the goal. It wasn't even that. It was just something in the power of seeing the number
mm,
that changed my life, that made it more realistic for me, if that makes
mm,
sense.
mhm,
So, with that, I would just say, for those listening, if your relationship with your money ain't that great, because I've been there, done that, I would encourage you to work on it, because a lot of what keeps us from having more in our life financially is the fear in the old systems that we've
Mm,
had to adopt to live. Like, I'm very clear with people, very transparent with people. Like, my life has not been a golden like pathway to Oz.
mm,
It's been
mhm,
filled with a lot of turmoil, a lot being a former houseless teenager, like all
mm,
of the things, a young mother. It's just been filled with a lot of hardship. So I say that to say, like, I was operating on a lot of old systems that
mm.
kept me afloat. Like, I was
Yeah.
really good at thriving, but in order to learn new ways to live and new ways to operate, I had to first look at my money and
Mhm,
get a better relationship with it. So I love the work you're doing. So my thing that I would leave is, do whatever Joey tells you to do, because it does start with your relationship with your money. And
mhm.
once you get comfortable with your money, you then become fearless. And I'm gonna tell this quick story, Joey, because I
Yeah,
love a
go
good
ahead.
story. I told my friend, it probably was like a year or so ago, I was coming up for renewal in my apartment. And normally I just sign on whatever they send me. Like, I don't ask
Mhm,
no questions, because it's like, I don't want, even though I'm making good money at this point, my mind was still in lack. So it's
mhm,
like, I normally don't do anything to rock the boat, even though I've like never been kicked out or evicted or anything. It's just always in a place of lack. So
mhm,
the leasing agent sent the renewal notice, and on the notice, she had the rate that would have been my rate had I renewed late, but I didn't renew late.
mm.
And I remember talking to her, and I was like, and basically advocating for myself on the phone.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not paying that. It's
Mhm,
like, because I renewed within the deadline, and that should be corrected. And she was telling me all the reasons as to why it wasn't going to be changed, things like that. And I
mhm,
remember getting off the phone saying, I'm not going to pay that. So I'll just wait for a manager from the corporate office to call me. And she didn't even get anybody to call me. She immediately just fixed it and sent me an email. But I remember getting like going through that, and then being on a friend with one of my homegirls. And I was like, I think something is happening with me. I
mm,
said, because I would have never done that.
mm,
But now that my money is good and I got money to go wherever I want, so even if I had to leave here because they don't want to give me the rate that I need, I know I have the financial resources to do that.
mm,
I show up bigger and bolder. That's the point of that story. And
mm.
I don't take people miss, because I
I
know
love
I
that.
have the money to fund my life. And
Mhm,
so money really is a tool to live. And your goal doesn't have to be, I want to make millions.
mhm,
If that is, that's great. But
mm,
your goal should at least be to live comfortable and to have the resources, the tools that you need to do that. So
mhm.
I encourage you to look at your money, do whatever Joey is telling you, and get you one good job or start your one good business, and it will change your life.
Mm. I love that. I love that. And I mean, like you mentioned earlier, you said that you didn't want to deal with your money, but you outsourced it, and you found somebody that was gonna willing to help with you. So, in that sense, find a friend or family member that is really money savvy, and ask them questions. Just talk to them. You'd be surprised. Like, they love, more likely they love talking about money anyways. So that's the kind of person that you need to talk to, and be like, they will talk your ear off to try to fix your finances for you. So just find somebody that's nerdy about money like me, and then
Yeah.
and then I will go through your numbers and I will
Joey,
fix them
so
for
I'm
you,
gonna say that's a service, Joey.
Yes,
Let's
yes,
monetize it. When are you
yes.
gonna sell it?
Well, I'm already doing financial coaching, but I don't
Oh,
really advertise it
Joey.
that much. So, uh,
Oh, sign up for Joey's coaching, y'all. Immediately.
oh man. All right. Yes, I will. I'm not really a great salesman for my own services, so I appreciate
Yeah,
you
I'm gonna have
saying that.
to give
Yeah.
Joey a pep talk when we end this call.
Oh man. All right. Well, Marthea, I mean, this has been a great conversation. I don't even want it to end, but I know you're a busy person. I've got a little 5-year old that's probably looking for some daddy time. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I think that's a good spot to end it on. But once again, thank you for your time. I know your time is very important, and just once again, all the people listening, check out macroandpaid.com, do their e-course. book her if you feel so inclined, and I hope you do. Um, but that's going to be it for this show, this episode. Stay tuned for more episodes. And if you're a social worker and you're interested in being on the show, just hit me up, send me a direct message, and we'll take it from there. But that's pretty much everything. I appreciate it, Marthea. And
Well,
we will catch you guys on the next stream.
bye.